Want to know the difference between leaving your consulting or coaching success up to chance or creating it with strategic intention? You're going to find out all about this with my guest and client, Leslie Faircloth, on today's Consulting Matters podcast. And welcome to the Consulting Matters podcast. This is the show for transformational consultants and coaches who are ready to own the power of their partnership and position themselves for greater impact and income. I'm your host, Betsy Jordan, and you can find out about all the things that I do to help my clients turn the best of their careers into a thriving business and a standout brand that they and their clients love at www.betsyjordan.com. And don't forget, Jordan is with a Y. So today, what I want to get into is the difference between getting clients and then building a business in a standout brand that consistently attracts those right clients. So for a lot of us, this is how we get into consulting or coaching. We leave our jobs and then we have a great network. And as soon as they hear that we're available, they're like, yes, I want to send people your way, or I want to hire you, and either way, that's great. But at some point, we realize this is great for now. But we come to a point where we recognize, like, this is not sustainable, especially if we need more than the next client. We need the ones after that. So that's exactly what happened with my client, Leslie. So she left her job as a director of small business programs with the Navy. And instantly, people were like, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. So she went out and she got professional photos taken. They were awesome. She put up a website, and it seems like that should be enough, right? But for her, it wasn't. And you want to know what's missing? It was the strategic intention and the brand foundation underneath her expertise. So, if you're an aspiring new or even seasoned consultant or coach and you're looking for more of a strategic path to a thriving business, to clients on repeat, and your impact that you are meant for, this is the episode for you. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you, Betsy. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, we knew this was like going to happen, because we've been working on your website for a while and you're part of the Impact and Income Accelerator. So this is the moment where we get to both hear all about your journey from moving into more of a strategic and intentional approach, and we get to celebrate the launch of your awesome new website. But before we get
Yay!
before we get into all of that and all about your strategic approach to building your business and brand, I'd love to talk a little bit more about your career. Like, so you went to UCF and then you fell into the defense industry right away. Like,
Mhm.
tell all of us about your experience and what drew you to the industry, and tell me more about that.
Yeah, sure. Happy to dive into it. And it was definitely nothing, I didn't grow up saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to work in government procurement." Because nobody does that. But as you mentioned, I went to University of Central Florida, and I actually started off going to school thinking I wanted to get into like psychology. And because that was always really interesting to me, just the mind and all of that and how it impacts everything. And then to be honest, I took a look around a couple of my first classes and I thought, "Oh my gosh, there are hundreds of people here. They're all trying to get into this field. Is this really what I wanna do? Is it gonna be flooded?" And I started to kinda rethink, what do I really wanna study? And so since psychology was something that I really enjoyed, I was also drawn to marketing because I know that marketing is definitely you have to have an understanding of the human psyche, and in order to, master marketing. So, and I thought, well, it couldn't be a bad idea to have a business degree. And so I actually started taking business classes and I established my new major as marketing. And so I went through all that, enjoyed the courses, and everything was great. And I knew, when it was time to graduate, the vast majority of marketing majors, they leave college and the very first job is sales. Which wasn't super appealing to me, but it's not as if I didn't know that that was gonna be kind of what was available to me, and I thought, "Okay, well, it's a stepping stone." So all of the interviews that I was getting as I was preparing to graduate, were all in sales, and it was a lot of, there's no salary base, it was all commission, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, that seems like such a, I wanna go, I wanna be able to sustain myself. I don't know if I could do that on just a commission. What if I hate sales?" So anyway, long story short, as I was, taking all these interviews and I got a letter in the mail because that's how long ago I graduated from college. We did everything snail mail. Um, got a letter in the mail from the Department of the Navy, and I thought, oh, they're gonna want, are they asking me to like to recruit me? I don't really want to go into the military because I don't think I could make it through boot camp. But open the letter and find out that actually what it was is the Navy activity here in Orlando, that's right next door to UCF, was actually looking to refill their pipeline of contract professionals because they had a huge wave of folks that were retiring and they needed to hire fresh blood. And so they were looking for business majors that had a certain GPA and were interested in starting a federal career. And, my dad used to be in the Air Force, and so I did have, that military connection to my family. And, when he I was telling him about the opportunity, and he says, working for the federal government is such a really good stable thing, and, they have good benefits. And, my dad grew up in the Great Depression, so stability and the sure thing was very, very important. So, those were the kind of the values that I was raised with. So I ended up saying, well, gosh, this sounds like an exciting opportunity. I don't know what the heck it is. They're going to train me how to do this work. And they had laid out already in the letter to say, hey, it's a 3-year training program. We're going to pay you, and here's going to be your salary for the next 3 years. And I was basically doubling my salary in 3 years. It was a sure thing. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna take this opportunity to, go in and interview. What do I have to lose? And I went in, and I guess I knocked it out of the park because they called me the very next day, and they were like, "Hey, we wanna offer you this job." Cool, right? So I was feeling really great because, I didn't have to worry about being in a commissions only sales job. They were gonna train me. I knew how much I was gonna make. It was stable. Everything's good. Um, and I had a job, already ready to go before I had my degree in hand. So it was like all peace of mind. So, I didn't know anything about it, right? But I kinda went in sight unseen, this is kind of an adventure, let's see if I like it. And, after going through all the training, I learned about the world of, federal acquisition, and specifically acquisition for what it means to buy things for the Navy and for the Army, and specifically, I was working, on, purchasing training systems and things that would help our sailors and Marines come home and be safe and learn how to do their jobs well. So, there was a lot to, feel good about the job. And I ended up staying in that career field for a long time, moving from the contracting piece to supporting the small business program at the command. Um, and so, I mean, there's a lot behind that story even. But I always, from that time, meeting the small businesses and just hearing their inspirational stories, hey, I started a business 2 years ago and it's, just me and my little family and we've grown this business. We've got employees. We're doing great things for the warfighter. Just really made me feel good about what I was doing, especially in a job that can sometimes feel a little bureaucratic, you know, overly process oriented. So that was a kind of a fun part of the career journey.
Yeah, you're one of those unique people who found inspiration in the middle of the contracting process, like, "Oh, wow, look at what these people are doing." Uh, so
Right.
so what seemed like was a safe opportunity really moved into more of a calling for you, like, that was something that you really enjoy doing and that you're really passionate about helping these small businesses succeed, and the ones who really do wanna thrive in this industry, like, that became a passion for you, so that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it really did. After spending so many years negotiating with a really large contractors, because I had, multi-million dollar programs, um, you start to learn like, gosh, they've got such high overheads and they're so slow to respond and they take forever to get the proposal to me. And then they really want to dig in during the negotiations and they don't really want to give. But then the experience working with a small business is night and day. They're responsive, they care, they're, willing to go above and beyond, and you can tell the difference. It's just, they are really they have that commitment. And so, yeah, so it's definitely I love the underdog.
That definitely seems like that was a theme too, but also, like, they had a personal stake in it. Like, the bigger companies, it was, like, somebody maybe assigned within the company who wasn't that personal, like, either they won the business or they didn't win the business. It wasn't gonna make or break their lives as a
Mhm.
personal level, but with your clients or now they're your clients, but the people you were supporting on the other side, they did make a difference, a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, big difference. One of the first small contractors that I helped when I was a interim small business director for the army for a few months while they stood up their own office. And that's where I really started to get my feet wet and understand a little bit more about like I don't know, the person behind the small business,
Mhm.
because I was encouraged to meet with the businesses and hear what kind of problems they were having, what they were struggling with government contracts. And so I got to know one company president, CEO in particular. We just met for lunch. I learned a little bit about his company. He stayed in touch with me just to check in and say, "Hey, here's what's happening. This is what's new." He was never salesy, but he would always just check in. So I never forgot, right? He stayed top of mind. And then towards the end of the fiscal year, which if you don't know anything about government contracting, that's when all the contracting officers are trying to put money on contract before it goes poof, right? So it gets really busy towards the end of the fiscal year. And sometimes you're just looking for that like easy button solution. And this company came to mind because I had a colleague who said, "Oh gosh, I really need some, this small courseware piece updated. And do you know any XYZ companies that can do this?" And I go, "Yeah, actually, I do." And it sounds like it's right up his alley. So he got a contract award out of it. And then he grew his business to a multi-million dollar firm and got wildly successful. And I mean, we still know each other, still talk to each other to this day. And that was probably 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So So were so when you had those successes, did you think like, "I really wanna continue doing that within the context of, like, the Navy," or did you think, "I wanna start my own business?" Like, when did it start moving from, "I like doing it in this context," to, "I wanna be on the other side?"
Oh my gosh, it took me forever to come to the realization that I wanted to start my own company. I would say I started my federal career kind of with the mindset of if this works out, I'm going to retire doing it. And that was still my mindset up until January of last year. So that was, 28, almost 28 years into my federal career when I finally made the decision. But when I realized how much I loved working with small businesses was when I was that interim director for the Army program. And I had just gotten my contracting officer like certification. I had a team, I was like, ooh. And I had just gotten that. So I didn't feel like I had really finished the experience that I needed to. So I didn't go after that job as a permanent thing, but it always stayed in the back of my mind, like, I would like to revisit that small business director job should one come available in the future because, gosh, that really felt good. But I still had more to learn on the contracting side, which definitely served me well later in the career and even today. So, even though I learned that specifically serving the underdogs, the small businesses in the defense market, felt really good to me. I leaned into it as a civil servant because I never even considered that I would leave. Gosh, why would I, right? But it took several years after I had become the director for the Navy Small Business Program. And I loved it. I grew the program. I just made so many amazing connections and, eventually it was time for me to do something different, right? We had the administration change, which put a lot of pressure on small businesses, especially those that are working with DoD. There was a lot of cuts to the federal workforce, a lot of uncertainty in the federal career for the first time ever, really. So I was not feeling that. And I really thought, maybe this is a sign that I, maybe have toyed with this idea in the back of my head of starting my own consulting business, but I always kind of shoved it away. But I thought, no, this is a time where I've got a window of opportunity and it's time for me to open it. And at that point, I just decided to take the leap because they were offering me basically an early retirement to head out of the government. So I said, great, that's what I'm going to do. And I went all in on my solopreneur consulting business last March.
So it's interesting for a lot of us. Like we might have had a dream of like, oh, it would be fun to have my own business, but it's usually until like the universe like plops it in your hand and say, would you like an early retirement? And it's like, if I'm going to do it, this is the best way.
Yeah.
So so it sounds like at the beginning though, like so it's like you were in your business, but you just like you kind of got started. So you got
Mhm.
clients, you put up a website, so talk to me about those early months and what was it that made you decide to sign up for the Impact and Income Accelerator that you did last fall? Like so you
Yeah.
started in March and I think the accelerator started in October or September?
October, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, October or September. Okay, yeah, yeah. So when I decided to take the early retirement, I knew that okay, I'm gonna have to do something other than just take the early retirement because clearly it wasn't a full retirement, so it's not enough for me to live the way I want to live. So I knew I needed to go all in on my consulting business. So I had a couple of months to kinda lay some groundwork and figure out, well, how do I where do I even begin? Like, what do I do? You know? So, I started looking at resources available on the internet and, reading books about consulting success, and one of the things that I, love to do is listen to podcasts. Um for whatever it is that I'm planning in my life. I planned a trip to Greece and I used a lot of podcasts to help inform my decisions on where to go and what to do. So naturally, I thought, well, gosh, there's got to be so much expertise and information out there. What kind of podcasts are on this consulting topic? And I came across your podcast and I started listening to, I don't know, a few of the early episodes. And I thought, oh man, Betsy sounds like she's really speaking to me. Like the things that you were saying, the way you were framing it up really made sense. And it was inspiring. So I was just consuming so much information, like I said, books, podcasts. And so I put together a business plan and I started making some initial contacts saying, I'm not ready to start working yet, but I'm just doing some discovery calls. We're just gonna talk about what it is that I think I might do, what might you need because I had so many, points of contact, from leaving my job where I had such a public facing presence. So I already had a lot of individuals who had reached out to me saying, "Hey, we heard you're retiring. What are you doing? We wanna work with you," which is awesome, right? So I needed to figure out, okay, well, what does this look like consulting? Am I going to like it? What is my day to day going to look like? What are my clients going to be like? How am I going to help them? And then, of course, you start to have that kind of panic of, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Now I got to go out and find clients and figure out how to work with them. And it just seems a bit overwhelming. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to start. We'll see what happens. And I try to approach it from, I've talked about this before, from a beginner's mind um, because it was new. I've never been an entrepreneur. I've always been an employee. So I knew that was going to be a huge mental shift. And having to go out and find clients versus them always coming to you, like was what was happening internally, that's a huge mindset shift, right? Making your own schedule, figuring out what it is you want to do. I just left room for trial and error and to be able to try some things out, see how they feel, and then take some time to reflect back. So, a few months in, I'd listened to enough podcasts and I'd had enough client engagements at that point where I thought, okay, I seem to be attracting some of the right clients. And then some of the clients that I'm getting are really just wanting me to like execute these tasks. And I feel like I'm working for a boss and I'm doing things that I don't really love to do. So maybe I need to get clearer on like how I'm attracting the clients that I'm attracting. And that's basically around the time when you offered your income and impact accelerator. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I've been listening to Betsy for like 7 months. I need to just join this, and I think I'm gonna get a lot out of it. I don't know. I just loved your advice, so I thought it was a great opportunity. So I hopped in and just thought, let's see what I learn.
It's so interesting. It's that, like, when I launched the Impact and Income Accelerator, I was thinking, like, okay, this is going to fill a specific gap in my overall suite of services. Like, I have my brand positioning and messaging that I do, and then we have the offers and the website. And it's like, but the way that you land clients is make or break. But it's interesting that people signed up for the group coaching around that part was still about the initial, like, who's my ideal client? How do I speak to them? So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, all roads go back to I need to get clarity on that strategic foundation. And so you like it wasn't very quick into it where you realize like I really want to build that. And I think as we got into the work, I'm like, well, this makes sense because you're wired as a strategist. Even as you just talked about, like, I listen to these podcasts, like I work on a business plan, like having a strategy was very important to you. And
Yeah.
like, what is it about the need so there was some of it is I need a strategy to attract
Mhm.
my clients, but
Mhm.
then it's like, even though you had a website, like, why was it important for you to level up the entire thing? Like, get clarity on the plan plus your the way that you were using your messaging and your website, like, why did you need to have the whole kit and caboodles, figured out?
Yeah, yeah, because it's kind of like when I joined the accelerator group. We were working through some things that kept having me to go back and go, "Oh, we need to talk to our ideal client." Well, who is my ideal client? And then I would read it and I would go, "Is it? Gosh, I don't know." And then what do I do for the ideal client? Well, and I would list things, I'm like, "But is that what I do? Gosh, is that what" so I wasn't finding the right words to put around the work that I was doing, and apparently, I had done a very bad job of putting words around it for most of my career because no one in my family or in my friend group could explain what the heck it was that I did for a living. They were like, "I don't know, government contracts for the Navy. She helps small businesses." I don't know. Right? So I definitely had a messaging problem. And, I just realized that I wanted to move away from that as much as possible, that like hourly rate exchange of, okay, I'm going to work on this thing for 2 hours and then I'm going to charge you this hourly rate because that just didn't seem to really fit right. I mean, I'm trying to do something more than that. And I was really having a hard time putting a value around what I really wanted to help my clients do. And before I could put value around it, I needed to have the right words around it.
Right.
So that was all of it. I mean, the words were wrong for so long. So,
So
yeah.
it was really getting clarity on who you wanted to help, making sure you're having the right people, and then the right messaging, like just getting those right words. Like then, like those were the sticking points, and you needed to get that kind of figured out. And then the rest of it kind of
Uh-huh.
flowed.
100%. Yes.
S- So let's talk about the process of getting that clarity in what you do, confidence in your message. Like, what would you say was the easiest part of the process? Like, what part of it was the most fun for you and the most validating? Unless
Hmm.
unless you say, like, "Betsy, your process is overwhelming and I hated all of it," you know?
No, I love that there was a process, and it was a messy process, but I think it's messy on purpose, because you kinda just have to.
No, no, I try to take all the mess out of it. I try to take
No, no, I mean
oh,
as far as, like, just getting all of the words out and then going, "What's here?" right?
Oh.
Like what's in the message? Like I've got a lot of thoughts. I just needed to put it all down. It kind of like when you've explained how you used to have your daughters clean up their room. Let's put all the things that don't belong in the middle of the room, and then we're gonna start to organize it. So I needed to get everything out so that I could start to organize it. And so the getting everything out was easy, right? I had so much flowing, but the organization and figuring out where everything belonged could definitely be, I think, the most challenging part of the process, especially when it comes to, okay, well, what value I brought, what are the goals of my client? Like I really had some trouble like really articulating the tangible goal or the tangible value. That was the hardest part for me.
Which is interesting because your value the kind of work that you do is very clear. Like there's a clear outcome is I want to be able to,
Mhm.
grow my business and have these contracts fuel this. For me, in the work that kind of unlocked my clarity was when we got onto your why. And we looked at the theme and saw the underdog theme. Like there was a couple things that were really clear. There's one is like labeling your strategist strength, which you just mentioned, but that why you're on the underdog. Like
Mhm.
once you said that, I'm like, okay, the rest of this thing is kind of like it's like all the pieces now are falling into place. Like, what
Yeah.
is it about the like talk to me a little bit about like when you got that clarity on the underdog and what does the underdog mean to you?
Oh gosh. So yeah, honestly, it goes back to the fact that, started to form those more personal relationships with the small businesses that I would start to work closely with during my career. You start to get to know about like the history of how they even started their business. And many times the individuals came from some sort of a disadvantaged background. Maybe they were, disabled in a military conflict, or perhaps they were, an underserved community, somebody who didn't grow up with a lot of means. So to hear their stories and see how they would build their businesses was very inspiring. Like it's just impossible not to be inspired by them, especially when, there's so much of that career where you're spending time with the larger corporations who just seem to be motivated by shareholder capitalism. So, being able to actually serve a company or a business owner that owns his own company or her own company, where they're supporting their family and they're supporting their employees and their community, it just has so much more value to me than feeding the beast, the
Mhm.
big bigs. So that's really where the desire to and the excitement to supporting the underdog comes from.
And it's a bigger theme in your life, like, it's not just like, there's a thematic element that it's like, "Yeah, I'm motivated here," but, like, you've always been that person who liked the underdogs and cheered for the
Mm,
underdogs, and then just, like, bringing that thread all the way through. Like,
mm,
I did see a difference, like, I think that when we got to the underdog, like, the work that we were doing was, like, not quite as just intellectual. Like, it was more
yeah.
like, I wanna really dig in, like, what do they really want, And you tacked
Yeah.
on it really well. It's like they wanna live the American dream by building this small business that allows them to serve America's military and, but also provide for their employees in their home and their families, and, there was, like, a depth to the work that you were doing because of that moment, I feel like. Maybe I'm just putting words in your mouth.
No, I totally agree, and I think that is what really helped me to see more clearly their goals and understand what my role in helping them achieve those goals really is, which helped me get clearer on how I provide value. Because I know you remember early in the when we started working together, I kept saying, "Well, I can get them connected to the right people, or I can advise them on things." And you're like, "No, no, no, that's not the goal." you know? So I think going through that process and uncovering that underdog theme and really leaning into that is what helped me get clear on the whole thing. And it's almost like as soon as we got there, the rest of it just kind of rolled and
Yeah.
ta-da, the website's up. It's like it felt like it went really fast there after we got clear.
And I think it's a little bit of a pivot of, like, looking at the solution as instead of the end, it's just the means to a bigger end. Like, yeah, you're gonna provide them the advice, you're gonna provide them the guidance, you're going to do all of that, but the real goal is that they get to land these big contracts that
Mhm.
fuel their immediate goals and their long term, like, propel their company to a whole new level because of what they were able to achieve, and I think it was just, like, we popped up to that level, but the heart behind it, like, you could still s like, we couldn't have made it generic of saying, "We help small businesses grow their business." But I think
Yeah.
because the passion got, really brought into it is like, "No, we're gonna help these underdogs, compete against the big dogs," like, the ones that really just are in it, like, as you said, for the money,
Mhm.
and they're not responsive, like, they're taking it for granted, but these small
Mhm.
business owners, it seems like in your experience, they weren't taking it for granted. So, it was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, like, now I really wanna get out there. I wanna help these people. Like, let's do this. Let's do this." And then it's like, done, done, done.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was like that light bulb moment.
What would you say is the most challenging or surprising part of really digging in and working through your brand strategy and your messaging
Hmm.
or your website?
You know, oh gosh. I I mean, the messaging to me just did not immediately come naturally. So that was a little hard. And I'm still that's still a work in progress, which is okay, right? We're all a work in progress. So I think still just finding the right words is still the most elusive part of the process, but I'm getting better at it. With your help, of course.
Yeah, but I wasn't good at it when I started. Like, I remember, especially when I made the move from the B2B consulting business to the B2C work, like working with consultants individually. I
Mm-mm.
remember, I was working with somebody who was helping me on, like, these pipelines that I was doing for, like, different webinars, and
Mhm.
she was, like, really direct, like, she's like, "Your messaging, Betsy, like, I don't get it." I'm like, What's wrong with my messaging?" And I got really curious, like, "What's up with?" Because 'cause I'm really good with putting, like, thoughts into words, and I'm like, "But
Yeah.
it's not just putting thoughts to words, it's putting thoughts in a certain way of conveying
Mhm.
words." Like,
Yeah.
writing copy and doing brand messaging is not the same as
Mhm.
me being able to put an agenda together for a group of executives, or
Right.
putting even a blog post together. It's just a whole different
Mhm.
thing. So I wasn't, so if you're saying it's a work in progress and I'm helping you, I'm like, well, I didn't know how to do that right off the bat either. Like, it's a different
Yeah.
kinda thing. It's something you have to learn and master.
Yeah, I mean, back to that beginner's mind. It's always a good thing to keep in mind is, okay, this is something I'm learning. I haven't done it before, so I'm gonna make mistakes and I need to probably seek some more counsel. And that's how you improve.
Yeah, that is how you improve. And it's like you just have to keep trying. But what's
Yeah.
interesting too, so let's talk a little bit about your website because
Okay.
there was a lot of foundational elements that we kept with your website. So you had photos
Mhm.
that you had before, so we kept that. There was a logo concept that you had, and we kept that, and we kept like the iterations of the color palette that you were
Yeah.
working with. But we
Uh-huh.
changed things in a very substantial way. So what would you
Mhm.
say is the from to of what your website was like before, and what would you say your website is like now?
Oh my gosh. It was so funny when I did my original DIY website, I was very proud of it. But when you compare them, it's like night and day. Oh my gosh. I mean, it, honestly, I think the folks who have seen it and their reactions really say it all because they also saw my before. And of course, they were very supportive. Like, oh, it's great. It's great. But they would still sometimes go, so what is it that you do? Um, but now with the new website, I mean, the words that folks have used to describe it is, "Oh my gosh, it looks so elevated and compelling." There's actual, quotes from real people with real faces. Like I know who they are. It has so much credibility. And I think it was I think it was Sarah from our group who said, "Oh my gosh, I don't even need your services, but I want to book a call with you."
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, so it was, I mean, night and day. It just looks so much more polished and professional and really way more representative of like how I really wanna put my best foot forward with my clients and really see them succeed. It looks like success on my website, and that's what I want to convey, you know?
Mhm.
So, I love it. I just love it. It's great.
And it's interesting is that a lot of times, even if you are DIYing something, like there could be
Mhm.
good elements in there. It's just like repackaging it in a different way. So
Yeah,
it's not like everything that you did beforehand was totally off, but it's like
right.
again, this is like new to you. So it's like understanding how to write copy, for the content blocks and how
Mhm.
the blocks fit and how to make the most of your pictures because we didn't change your
Yeah,
pictures. Your pictures were your picture.
right. Yeah, and that was a
And
stroke of luck getting those
oh no.
pictures.
Oh, no,
Oh,
no, it was not it was a stroke of luck that you got that photographer, but if you work with
exactly.
that photographer, it is not a stroke of luck because she's a genius.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
for those listening and you're a woman over 40, tomorrow night is a an Oviedo
Is
is the
amazing.
one, you must
Yes.
go to her.
Yes, you must. She's amazing, amazing. I'm so glad that I found her and I didn't even know. So, I didn't even know we were gonna redo my website, I was yeah, anyway, blown away.
So so let's talk about, like, now that you've gone down the DIY path, like, so I
Mhm.
kinda call that, like, the accidental success path, like,
Yes.
or it's kind of like relying on chance path, like, you've
Yeah.
gone down that path, but now
Mhm.
you're here,
Mhm.
you're still getting clients on in the similar kinda way. What's the
Mhm.
difference between the 2? Like, if somebody is, just starting out or they're in a similar place that you were, or even where you are right now, what would you say is the difference between this is how I felt, and this is how it was, and this is where I'm at now, and this is what it's
Mhm.
like for me.
So when I first started to get clients, which I mean, it came rather easily. And again, that was, I think, just because I had so much visibility. So lucky me. But also in the back of my mind, I went, well, that's not gonna last forever. Like, at some point, that's gonna start to trail off, and I'm gonna have to start to power my, pipeline in some other way. And so I was thinking about, well, how do I do that, right? I need to be more intentional. So, moving into this new chapter, that's part of it, right? So now it's much more intentional about how am I attracting the ideal client, instead of just saying, well, I'm going to rely on my network and the word of mouth, which I had great s- a great start with that, but it's just not sustainable over the long term. So now today, having a plan for, becoming leaning more into thought leadership and writing blogs and, creating content that's actually valuable for the clients is much more it's much more important, it's much more meaningful, it's more sustainable, and my engagements with the clients are now becoming much more strategic. Just I put myself in that mindset and now this is kind of what I'm giving off, you know? Whereas
Mhm.
before it was like, well, what do you need me to do? Right? What can I help you with? Instead, now it's okay, let's sit down and get clear on your goals and let's outline a strategy to get there. So it's a complete shift in the focus of how I'm working with the clients too.
So the impact and income accelerator did play a good role, at least on the landing clients, but still you had to have those foundations in place in order to show up this way. And I think that's part
That's
of the
so right.
strategic is you could still have all kinds of sales skills. Like you had a sales, marketing background, sales background.
Mhm.
You could have amazing sales skills, but unless you have like some of that behind you, you may not show up in that.
Mhm.
Let me take charge of this process. Let me guide you because I want to be your advisor. I want to be your strategist. I want to be your guide through this process, which
Yeah.
is what you said earlier is like I understood my role in the process.
Right.
Before you weren't clear on your role. It sounds like you were more like, "Oh, I'll be a service provider." Like now,
Yes.
no, like I'm a partner to you. I'm going to come
Yeah.
alongside you.
100%. Absolutely. Yes, you're spot on. And, just again, getting clear on the foundation was really what it needed because the income and impact accelerator, yes, that was helpful, but I was like, okay, I'm still struggling. I'm not clear somewhere. There's a crack in the foundation. We need to fill it so that I can continue to build.
And it's interesting is, like, working through some of your testimonials is that your value proposition is super powerful and super clear. Like, landed this multi-million dollar contract as a result of working with you. And it was interesting looking at your testimonials, like, you sort of buried the headline, where it's
Yes.
even, like, if you think about, like, when people look at recommendations, we think, like, "Oh, people should be, like, raving about how great I am," or, like, how helpful my guidance is rather than, like but the real story is, like, I landed a multi-million dollar contract that might have been out of reach because I work with you.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
now we're talking about, like, oh my gosh, like, if you're talking about charging for your value, like, well, what would that be worth?
Right.
If you really built into, like, your sense of power around this, there's a lot of ways that you can go once we get you,
Mhm.
do the ROI certification on your programs, that you'll be able to see, like, oh, they're gonna get, like, this level ROI as a result of working with you.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly, and I think before I didn't really have I wouldn't say the confidence. I feel like I have confidence, but I didn't love the idea of trying to sell people. I didn't wanna sell things or, market myself. I think, so I kinda shied away from, I think, recognizing the real value of what my guidance can actually do for a client. So getting really clear on that and having you go through that motion of, okay, you got to go ask for some testimonials. I know you've got some. And where normally I would not have gone and asked for any feedback. It was really very amazing to see the feedback I got, and I went, "Oh, all right. I really am making a difference. Dang, I need to
Mhm.
give myself credit." So, we sometimes play small because we're trying to be, I think, what's the word? Um, I don't know, but it just didn't feel right, and I needed to reframe. That's all. Reframe my thinking.
Well, it's like don't wanna we wanna be humble, we wanna be of
Yes, humble.
service.
Mhm.
But I think that the thing is that when you get really clear on the ideal client, you are of service by being clear to them, and
Mhm.
making it clear what the value is. I think that I talked about it on JB's podcast. So JB Adams and I did a podcast on trust, and I gave like my whole big spiel about how happy I was with my skin cancer surgeon
Mhm.
and how much I got trust because their brand messages were clear. And it's like, I think on the other end, I don't think we realize, like, what kind of service that actually is, to be
Mhm.
clear. Like, this is the value that I'm creating. Not to
Mhm.
use weird, vague, jargony phrases that,
Mhm.
like how I used to do it. Or I think when I was a consultant, I want to let's see. Let me think if I think of all of the different iterations of my value proposition. Is the one that comes to mind is like I help ignite leadership and organizational potential. Like, what the heck does that mean?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I was really proud of that one, like, but it meant something to me, like, cause it's Ignite. My business name was
Yeah.
Acceleri, so I'm at
Mm.
Catalyst, and I'm gonna ignite it. Doesn't mean anything. It would've been a lot easier to say, I empower leaders of growing, hospitality organizations by getting the senior executives on the same page on the comment, like, something along those lines. That's a whole lot
Mhm.
more clear than I ignite leadership and organizational potential.
Right, 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 exactly. But you hear it so often though. It's like somebody just has a tagline instead of really communicating really what it is that they do.
Yeah, and then so it's like that clarity leads to the other clarity of like, well, this is how we partner together. This is the value that's on the table. You could choose to work with me or not, but I'm going to be really clear of like these are your choices and this is what you can
Mhm.
do.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Once you have the right words.
But some people might say like, that's cool for you that you need to work on your website and stuff like that. I don't need to do that. I'll just get on LinkedIn and I'm just going to create content. Like, so you want to be a thought leader. What would you say to someone to say, I don't need a website. I'll just get up on LinkedIn and just start creating content?
I mean, they can do that. Is that really how they want to position themselves? Because when I think about, okay, let's just say folks in my industry, and I'd gone to so many websites in my career, And I would occasionally come across a company, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we don't have our website up," or they had a website and it was like, "Oh, it looked terrible." But there's several consultants in the business who, I mean, they're successful, but they don't even have a website, or they have a website that's like really, really outdated, and it leaves an impression. That's not the kind of first impression that I want because nowadays, you know, where's the first place you go to look up information about a person or a company? You're going to go to their website probably first. Yeah, I'm going to go check out on LinkedIn, but that's going to be probably second, third. I'm
Mhm.
going to look for your website first. And if I come across a website that is out of date or poorly done, I'm like, next. When I'm talking about like shopping for things for myself or, researching things for myself, if it's not well done, I'm moving on to the next one because it shows that, or at least it leaves the impression that you don't care about the quality or what your presence looks like to potential clients. So I think that's
Yeah.
important to portray really what it is the message you're trying to get across. Everything needs to be in that package.
It's almost like if I wanted to go to a restaurant that wants to charge me, like, top tier prices, but
Hmm.
then it's like there's the bathrooms are a mess, you know, the dining room is outdated, unattractive, like, you wouldn't pay that kinda money, like,
Hmm.
everything conveys something.
Hmm.
Do you
Right.
feel do you feel more confident to go out and market yourself now? Like, you only had your website launched for a week. Like, how's that impacted your even your confidence to put yourself out there?
I mean, I am so excited to put an announcement out on LinkedIn, which I haven't done yet just because I've been, hey, busy with clients, which is a great problem to have. But I am like so ready to put that message out there and just like generate more excitement. I can't wait. So, I mean, it really just it motivates me to want to do it because I'm enjoying it. Like I'm excited to finally reveal like, hey, this is really what I do. I know some people have been unclear about it for years, so now let's
Mhm.
get clear. I'm excited. Here I am.
I love that. I'm excited. Here I am. Welcome, world. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm ready for you. Oh, I'm sure people
I'm
are listening and saying, okay, you've talked about our website so much, Betsy. Can you please just ask her for the URL? What is the
ready.
URL so I can check it out? Could you please share what
So
the URL
easy.
is?
Yeah, yeah, super easy. LeslieFairclothConsulting.com.
So for those who might be listening that know people in that are small businesses and diverse small business owners who want to work with the defense industry and land contracts, why get just in a nutshell, why are you the best person for them? Why are you the best person to help them win against those established big dogs?
Because I've been inside those offices, and I know the processes. I understand the policies, the politics, and just how difficult it can be to break down those walls and really understand, like, how do I move forward? I mean, that it takes folks so long to even map out a path, and even then, they often will go down the wrong path. So, I can help save a lot of headaches and just misunderstandings and wrong turns. So, in turn, you're gonna not miss opportunities. You're going to move faster. You're gonna see growth in a better way. You may get there on your own in time, but it's hard. It's a difficult road to navigate, and I've been on the inside, and I can help you navigate, strategize, and plan to win.
You made your mama proud. That job on the messaging and articulating the value, like, that was so good. You, like, hit all the value words.
Thank
And I
you.
think that you hit the nail on the head about what the value and the value proposition is, like, you just did such a beautiful job because it is true that they're on the journey on their own, but you
Mhm.
just perfectly described what the value is that you're bringing to the table. They're gonna get to that goal faster. They're gonna save time and money. They're gonna not have all of those missteps along the way and all the frustrations. That is so good. And I love that you're really claiming like, that did flow out of you in the beginning, and I love that you're claiming that I have all the insider knowledge. Like, I know all the people. I've been on the other side,
Mhm.
and that's a huge value add.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the person that was, crafting the, "Hey, here's how we can do it, guys. If we can just, get everybody to coalesce around this idea, we can make things happen." And I love doing that for my clients, so
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna, I'm gonna make sure that we have if you are listening on the podcast, this will not be an easy thing for you, but if you head on over to listen to this episode on my blog, I will make sure that we have a side by side of the before and the after, so you can see, Leslie's, her business makeover. Um, is there anything else that you want to share about your journey into consulting business ownership, about the strategic path and why that is important? And I'm just not asking you the right questions.
I think the one thing that I would share is, listen to that voice that's inside you, because I had that little voice speaking to me for several years before I decided to take the step to start my own business. And I would just squash that voice, and I don't think I should have. I should have listened. I should have tuned in. So that's my advice to the listeners. If you've got that voice in the back of your head saying, "I wish I, what if I," you know, why not? Honestly, just you, I look back and I say, I have no regrets. And so hopefully others can take some inspiration from that.
And I think your dog in the background is agreeing with you very wholeheartedly. He's like, huzzah! That's right. Huzzah.
Yes, yes.
You know, and but I think your experience played itself out, it's like, from my experience in working with consultants and all these consultants and coaches all these years and myself included, in that is that there's always like in the heroic journey, there's a call to adventure and the heroes always say no at first. But then the universe doesn't really
Yeah.
just ignore it. Like the call is gonna come back, and it's gonna be like something like what happened with you is like, here you go, early retirement. And I think it was all the perfect timing. Like, I think you had the
Yeah.
perfect timing, and I think in terms of your beginner's mind
Mhm.
perspective that you shared, I think it would be that kind of thing. It's like when you hear that little voice, just get curious about it. It may not
Mhm.
be the right time, but you don't have to be like, "No, like, I'm not entertaining this at all," or, "I'm just gonna squelch it." It's like, "Let me give it some
Exactly.
room. Let me explore this," then and validate it. And you're absolutely
Yeah.
perfect fit for what you do. Like you're a perfect fit. You're so easy in some ways to get through this work because it's like this just feels so natural, feels so right.
Yeah, and I hope that that's how my clients feel. I'm pretty sure they do because they do tell me.
Yep.
So, I do really put my heart into it.
And you could put your heart into anything that even if it seems like it's like contracting and navigating that process, like it seems dry, but it's not because it really has like real people on the other side. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like be
You're so
excited about
right.
it.
Yeah, I know, it's such a weird thing to get excited about, but when I can, kinda sit down and nerd out and pull all the pieces of the puzzle together, and then take that and create this picture for my client to go, "Here's how I'm gonna help you get from here to here," and just lay it all out, and then they go, "Oh my gosh, it's so much clearer now, I know what to do." It's I don't know, I get a lot of satisfaction in doing that, so it's fun.
So full circle. So,
Yeah.
as we wrap this up, it feels like it's a full circle around like you being strategic allows you to be more strategic with your clients, and that's a lot of what they need. If
Mhm.
they're in the similar place where they're like you were, like I've never done this consulting business stuff. So I have this unknown, your ability to be strategic yourself allows you to pay it forward to your clients where you could offer them the strategic roadmap to where they need to go.
Yeah, I love that. You summed it up perfectly.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Loved every minute working with you. If you are resonating with Leslie, definitely check out her stuff. If you need help, like getting on your strategic path for your consulting or coaching business build, love to help you. It is a really powerful process to go from here to there, but at the same time, like just like what I love about this conversation, just like the oozing confidence, like the grounded confidence that you have because we have this foundation underneath you. So that is
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please go ahead and rate and review it so more people can find the show, forward it to other people who are aspiring or seasoned or anywhere in the journey in consulting, coaching, business ownership. And until next time, thank you all so much for listening.